Oh, good, thanks a lot.
Line. All right, do the roll. Chester, Sydney Lignar.
Hello.
Clinton, Michelle Bienvenia, she is out today, so she will not be joining us. Cromwell, Anthony Salvatore. Here. Deep River, Carol Dulac Jones.
Here.
Durham, Brendan Ray. Here. East Haddam, Irene Haynes. I assume she's not attending today. East Hampton, David Cox. Here. Essex, Carrie Duquesne.
Morning.
Haddam, Robert McGarry. Here. Killingworth, Eric Couture. Here. Lyme, David Long is not expected. Middlefield, Jim Irish or Bob Martino, or either one online.
Jim is here.
Welcome, Jim. Middletown, Ben Florsheim is not expected. Old Lyme, Martha Shoemaker. I don't see her yet. Old Saybrook, Crawford, you're not here. Portland, Michael Pelton. I don't know if he's online. I don't see him in the room. And then Westbrook, John Hall.
Good morning.
Good morning. For the MPO, Joe Comerford. I see him online. Is Grayson Wright also online from DOT? Welcome, Grayson. And then also from the MPO, Dunning Briggs Middlesex Chamber.
Good morning.
Good morning. And then I'll introduce RiverCOG staff, Sam Gold, Megan Juthless, Leslie Westby, Rob Harriman, Brendan Garrity, who's online, Susie Beckman, Marcos Gonzalez, Kevin Armstrong, Margot Burns, Janice Erlenmeyer, and Elizabeth Rollison. Anyone that I missed for COG staff? I don't think so. And then we have a few guests. We have let's see, Carol Conklin, our regional election advisor.
Greg Buckley.
Oh, Greg Buckley.
Connecticut Ag Station.
Yeah, we have Julia from the Representative Courtney's office.
Mike Fisher from BL Companies.
Oh, okay. Hey, people online, I can't see you, so if you could just, whoever needs to be introduced, please introduce yourself online if I haven't introduced you yet.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Katie Malgiolio. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator with Yukon Technical Assistance to Brownfields, and I'm going to be talking about the Brownfields Roundtables today.
Great, welcome. And I see a representative from Eversource is online as well. Anna, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name's Anna Savastano. I'm a new community relations specialist with Eversource. I cover everywhere from Brantford to Old Saybrook, Westbrook, and then Essex, Chester, Middletown, and Deep River. So happy to meet everybody.
I also see we have Aaron McBride as well from Congressman Blumenthal's, Senator Blumenthal's office.
Good morning. Sam, are you asking for an update or are you just introducing?
Introductions. We're just doing introductions.
Okay, great.
Move into that under public speaking. So
One second though, before we get there. Is that everyone?
I think that's everyone.
Okay, I need an adjustment to the agenda under COG business. We'll make it A and then move every one after that down. So I need the regional election advisor. And that would be A, and then 1 would be her report. And 2 would be her contract. So that would be a new 5A, 1 and 2.
So move to change that to the agenda.
Second.
Motion, second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, Sam, public speaking.
All right, Aaron, why don't you go first?
Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. Not too much to report today. Just that our office has been closely monitoring, different orders as they come out around Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid, housing and HUD, the Department of Ed, SNAP, among many other things. Also keeping a close eye on some of the vital funding streams and existing grants that are being utilized as new executive orders go into effect. So I think I've mentioned to some of you in the past, as any existing grants that you're operating on are impacted by any executive orders, please reach out to our office. I know Congressman Courtney's office is also tracking these. I would say all of our offices are, deeply concerned about these kinds of things. So just keep us posted. And just the last thing is, as many of you know, the government passed a continuing resolution on March 14th, and Senator Murphy did vote no against this CR. It did not include any CDS projects, and it had over $13 billion worth of cuts around things like Social Security and housing and healthcare, among many other things that impact a lot of Connecticut residents, among other individuals across the country. So not too much to report today other than that, but if you have any questions, always happy to try and answer them.
Thank you. Would you say Senator Blumenthal's office?
Yeah, I don't see Senator Blumenthal's office on, is Ellen on?
No.
So I will go to Courtney's office, Julian McDonald.
Sure. So good morning. Like Aaron said, we passed a continuing resolution that will fund us through September 30th, so through the entire fiscal year. We're still trying to understand what that means for block grant dispersals and things like that. We've never been on a CR for a whole year before, so this is new for everybody. But we're working on it. And if there's anything that we need you guys to know, we will let you know. I did include a section by section summary in my report of that. If you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to us. Largely, it is an extension of the fiscal year 24 budget with a few exceptions, a small decrease in defense spending and overall a small increase in defense spending and then a decrease in non-defense discretionary spending. But by and large, with a few exceptions, it is an extension. Like Aaron said, we are tracking anyone who might be having issues with accessing funding that they are current is an open award. I have a link in my report to a request for information on a Microsoft form that I would request if you are having any problems. Please fill that out. That's very helpful. All of that information remains confidential unless expressly, discussed otherwise. Other than that, one thing I wanted to flag is we heard yesterday, Connecticut Food Share is having some issues with funding and they are not receiving inventory as they normally would. So if you, and basically any food pantry we have in the state is impacted by their supply. So if you know of a food pantry in your town that is seeing a decrease in incoming inventory because of that, please let us know. At this point in time, we can't necessarily, snap our fingers and make a truck of food show up, but we are trying to see what we can do to help that. That's mostly connected to some decreases in USDA spending. Other than that, I don't have a lot of productive things to tell you. This has certainly been an interesting session thus far. But our office definitely remains open to any questions. I'm happy to get creative about communication if you would prefer not to do it in traditional ways.
Signal.
I am on Signal and I do not normally give out my personal phone number, but these are new times. So if that is the way you are most comfortable communicating, let me know and we'll set it up. I am definitely already doing that with quite a few grantees and things. And there's a lot of things we're tracking that we're not quite sure what's going on yet. So if you are hearing things that might impact municipalities that you're concerned about, feel free to reach us. We're trying not to over communicate when we're not totally sure exactly what the full implications are, because we don't want to make things more confusing for you. So if you're seeing something that you're not hearing from us on and you're like, what is that? Feel free to give us a call. We might not know the answer at this time, but we're working on it. That's pretty much it at this point in time.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the food pantry issue, is
Yeah.
that tied up with the program to buy from local farmers produce?
Yeah, so it's the local food promotion program. And then there's also there were one of the unfortunate parts of this continuing resolution was in so emergency assistance for families experiencing food insecurity. That's taking a hit. There's also a program through USDA specifically for like farm fresh food to school districts. That is also, so it's a couple different USDA programs, but yes, that is one of them.
I'll just be, I know people who are farmers and
Yep.
who have, particularly when that started during COVID, was a very important source of revenue for them.
Yes, also, if anybody has farmers who either have existing contracts with NRCS or maybe a REAP grant for solar panels or something like that and are having trouble, that is another thing we're really trying to ascertain the full scope of, so feel free to let us know on that. But yeah, the USDA food assistance programs is something that we're particularly concerned about at the moment, just because that was one thing that really did not get replenished in the way that would be certain.
Thank you.
Carl. So I'm confused on, I know we have a lot of other business CRs, so,
Yeah,
I've seen multiple factoids out there.
Sure.
I don't know if they're true or not. You said we've never run on a full year on a CR, but the federal government frequently runs on CR.
correct.
So it's not that unusual.
So the unusual part is that we just kind of, I guess, are not participating officially in this fiscal year. So like technically, when you look back on the history books,
Yeah.
it'll go fiscal year 24, fiscal year 26.
Yeah.
And what we don't so mostly for the most part, yes, the federal government's very used to being on a CR.
Yeah.
I don't think that we've ever passed, it's probably been 100 years since they passed a budget at the right time. My concern and what we don't fully understand is mostly for block grant allocations that get sent to states in like tranches, like LIHEAP or SNAP or things like that, where we've technically already dispersed the fiscal year 24 amount.
Oh,
But if this fiscal year 25 continuing resolution is a full extension, how does that, and there weren't supplemental funds allocated, do we need to take additional legislative act? And that's what we're trying to
Yep.
figure out.
okay.
So in general, the federal government is it's not an ideal situation,
Right.
but the federal government is very experienced with running on a CR. It's just those nuances where normally we're like, well, the rest will get dispersed when we get into an actual budget.
And I appreciate the explanation. I get that. And I think it's important to note that for the most part, the government is running on a budget that was passed by the previous,
Yes. Yeah.
previous administration,
no,
previous House and
For the
Senate.
most part, yes.
So even though there's a lot of noise right now
Yeah.
and a lot of, I'm not saying there's not action too, there is.
Yes,
But
well,
yeah, there's a lot of executive action. How's
Yes.
that?
yes. No, yeah, no, by and large, Carl's right. It is an extension of last year's budget with a few exceptions. Like I
exceptions,
said,
right.
there's some defense spending that has gone up, although some has also gone down. As you all know, Joe Courtney is a major proponent of the submarine. And there was some cuts made to that program that he is not pleased with. But in all, defense did go up, and there were a few programs such as like medical research and the food that went down. But by and large, like things like CDBG, which impacts everybody here, did get extended at the fiscal year 24 levels. So there are some areas where it's
Right.
really acutely impactful, and then some areas where it's not ideal, but it's not gonna end the world.
Thank you.
Anyone else with questions? Carl?
Julia, for appropriations, through the appropriations committee, how is that affected in the continuing resolution? If we had appropriations for something in 2024, does that mean that those appropriations carry over to?
That's a great question, but I do not have an answer.
And are they double?
I don't know. Probably not. I would say just based on the standard.
Because like if they gave out in 2024, would they give out again in 2025?
Right, so I don't have an answer to that. One of the problems that I just as like a staffer trying to implement this is that the language is quite broad, so that a lot of these decisions of whether further funds will be dispersed will have to happen by the executive branch. Because there just isn't the language in the statute to know. We also, unfortunately do not have much information on what fiscal year 26 appropriations will even look like. We're not sure what, so right now we have internal deadlines, but we have not had communication on how we're even supposed to request fiscal year 20, like whether it be language or programmatic or even community projects. For that, we do not know if we're having community projects this year. If we are going to prioritize first our fiscal year 25 requests that were cut. Unless for some reason the accounts don't match up to the requests anymore, or the grantee doesn't want to move forward. And then in that case, we'll solicit for further, requests, but we are going to try to put those ones first if we get the chance to. But at this point in time, we are kind of trying to prepare for appropriations internally and wait for someone to tell us what the plan is. Which we are coming up on the time when we need to know what that is, but I don't know the answer to that. I'll let you know when I.
Anyone else? Okay,
Sorry, if I can just add, our office is doing the same thing just for awareness in case anyone reaches out. I know I've talked to Sam this week already about some of the stuff around CDS, but we'll keep your guys posted if we hear anything. But yeah, like Julia said, we're also just waiting for guidance from the appropriations committee, and our office will also be prioritizing those other projects that were almost at the finish line and at the stage of being signed into law and funded, if and when we have guidance and if such projects are allowable under new guidance. So
thank you.
I'd like to recognize Michael Pelton from Portland. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Chris.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you.
All right, moving to our presentation. Sam, would you like to introduce our guest?
Actually, I don't know if I'm the right person to introduce, but, actually, yeah.
Eliza, would you like to?
Sure, so, and I'm so sorry, Katie, but I think it's Katie Malgioglio. Did I do that? Okay?
Yes, close enough, close enough.
He's joining us from UConn Technical Assistance to Brownfields Program. They were in touch with Sam to talk about coordinating a Brownfields roundtable for our region. And Susie and I met with them maybe 2 weeks ago, and they had a lot of good information. So we thought it would be beneficial for her to come do a short presentation on the roundtable and what UConn TAP does.
Awesome, thank you so much, Eliza. So yeah, like Eliza said, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, perfect. So like Eliza said, my name is Katie Malgioglio. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for UConn Technical Assistance to Brownfields, and I know you guys have a lot to do today, so let's just get right into it. So for those that don't know UConn Technical Assistance to Brownfields, we are a program funded by the Environmental Protection Agency, and we essentially provide free technical support and services to any municipalities, nonprofit organizations, regional planning organizations, states, or tribes that are experiencing brownfields issues. And I'm happy to answer more questions about that, but we'll try to keep the presentation more targeted to this initiative, the Brownfields Roundtables, which is something that we gained inspiration from Dave Foss, the Brownfield State Coordinator in Massachusetts. He has been hosting a lot of regional Brownfields Roundtables throughout Mass. And inviting UConn TAB, and we just thought they were really meaningful outreach and engagement opportunities. So we're trying to create the same initiatives throughout Connecticut. And like the slide says, the purpose of these events is to essentially bring in stakeholders from Connecticut. So UConn TAB, the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development, DECD, hopefully EPA, and other partners, municipalities, regional planning organizations like RiverCOG, to just organize an in-person meeting where these stakeholders and community members, developers can discuss the different available brownfields grants and services. They can network, they can talk about current local brownfields issues, engage in collaborative problem solving, and then share best practices, lessons learned, and success stories. So what do these events look like? Typically, we have a welcome and an opening remarks. The events in Massachusetts, everybody's sitting kind of banquet style at different tables. And then just very, very brief presentations from the stakeholders. So think, 10 to 15-minute presentations from EPA, CT Deep, CTD, CD, Yukon Tab, RiverCOG, municipalities, any sponsors of the event can present. And then we'll move into a Q&A and a more collaborative kind of panel discussion. So, anyone is welcome to speak and ask questions. And then finally, just some closing remarks, networking, refreshments. The events are meant to be not very stressful, pretty low key, no very long presentations, just kind of, fast moving. And that important part is really the panel conversation and the roundtable. So talking about some logistics, so for a date, on Yukon Tab's end, our schedule is flexible. We have events happening from April to June. That's really up to the regional planning organization that we're working with and the other partners that we're working with. And we're happy to make any date that works for you work for us. We do have events happening on some days, but we can talk about different conflicts and things like that. As far as timing, these events are usually 3 hours, with about an hour to an hour and a half, an hour to 2 hours, we'll say, being the presentations, and then the other hour just Q&A, networking, more casual conversation. And they often take place in the morning from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. is a usual time frame we're seeing. And then finally, for a venue, a lot of these events we've been planning so far are taking places at community colleges, but any kind of business or restaurant or venue on a former remediated brownfield site can always be interesting. We have one event taking place at a restaurant in Danbury that's a former brownfield. And then town halls are really anywhere that can accommodate. I think the next slide will say, well, I don't know if it says it, but I'll say it. So we're looking at about 50 attendees for these events. So for a venue, anywhere that can accommodate that 40 to 50 attendees. And then who are these attendees? Who is this event for? Well, all are welcome to attend. Sorry, my computer is freezing a little bit, so I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me okay. I might turn off my camera. You can hear me. Okay, perfect. So all are welcome to attend. So municipalities, community-based organizations, government officials, state and federal agencies, developers, community members. Typically, these events have been tailored to public entities that are applying for grants, but at the end of the day, this event is for RiverCOG, for this region, and we can definitely examine where the goals of this region lie, where the need lies, and create the agenda and invite list accordingly based upon that. And finally, the benefit, kind of what is in it for all of you. So really the benefits are just this kind of widespread brownfields education throughout the region. Obviously, brownfields are a massive issue, not only in Connecticut, but throughout New England and throughout the country as well. And not a lot of people know, unless you're in this world, there's a good chance you don't know what they are or how they're impacting you and your community. So just kind of getting that education out there. Networking and making connections with different stakeholders throughout the region that you may have not been able to connect with before. The opportunity to discuss current brownfields issues and projects and engage in collaborative problem solving with people from your region. Building awareness around available brownfields funding and different resources for municipalities and people that may not have been aware before. And then finally, like I mentioned, just that sharing of success stories or active stories and projects, lessons learned, and best practices. So that's all the slides I have for you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Does anyone have any questions for Katie?
I'll just ask a question. I attend our Chamber of Commerce's Infrastructure and Environment Committee. And I think they would be very interested in maybe being a partner in something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. We welcome that. I'm here today just to kind of gauge interest, and we're just in the very beginning stages of the planning process. So we're open to working with any partners, and kind of the more the merrier.
Great. Thank you.
And if I could just add, Sam, Susie and I had some ideas of where to hold this roundtable, but if anyone here wants to volunteer at their town hall or a restaurant or brownfield in your town, please let one of us know.
One quick question. One of the questions that's come up, in a local municipality is the concern of taking on a brownfield project because of the potential liability. Is that something that's addressed in this? You mentioned that towns that are applying for grants, but I'm wondering if even before that step of knowing if applying for a grant is the right way to go.
Yeah, we can absolutely, like I said, we can really tailor the content. UConn Tab has a pretty extensive Brownfields 1 presentation, so we can definitely kind of hone in on that liability piece and talk about what that process looks like for any municipalities who are understandably nervous about it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. And I assume your contact information is, we have it?
Yeah, so I think Liza will be contacting you to see to gauge interest. And if there's enough interest, we'll plan an event.
Roundtable.
Yep.
Thank you very
Perfect.
much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me today.
Okay. Moving on to MPO business, the first item is approval of the minutes from February 26th. Can I get a motion?
So,
Second? Second? Any corrections? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is the tip amendment 07. Rob, you want us to, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, all same project, Rob?
Yes.
Without objection, Rob will give an overview of all three and we'll vote on all three together.
Yeah, sure. Okay, this is tip amendment number 7 for the 2025 tip. It's bridge improvements on Bridge 4663 on River Road over Falls River in Essex. That is right down the street. You drive down to the end of Denison, take a left on River Road. It's the bridge right there, so it's not far from here at all. This is an earmarked fund from 2024. The town and the state have 3 years until 2027 to spend the funds. It's a 2-lane bridge. Let's see here, it's structural deficiency. Once the state goes through and does a full inspection, they'll know if it's a rehab project or a complete reconstruction. There are 3 line items for this project. It's project number 49113, exempt from air quality modeling. There's a preliminary design phase in 2025 for 188,000, a final design phase in 26 for 188,000, and a construction phase in 27 for 875,000.
It's a very small bridge.
When's that a while?
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna go up. They'll be in a minute later.
put the culverts in for less than 2 million. The bridge up for 875.
I've got it over on a dirt road, that's 500, so.
I mean, yeah, geez. I want this contractor.
Yeah, but you might not wanna drive over.
Sorry, Tony, we're getting sidetracked here.
Guys, you guys are getting off the subject here. That's it. They need this bridge,
I'm sure they do.
right?
Yes.
Right.
I'll move approval of the amendment.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
A second. That's on 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Rob, 26-27 UPWP, you wanna explain UPWP?
Yep, sure. The UPWP is the Unified Planning Work Program. It's required by MPOs under federal regulations. Basically what it is every 2 years, we kind of come up with a work plan of all the transportation activities we're doing over the next 2 years, which is FY 26 and 27. It's broken out into 5 major categories, which is administration, data collection and analysis, planning activities, technical assistance, and public involvement. Basically, it's broken out by financial tables using the various funding sources, whether it's federal, state, local, and breaks out staff hours according to those 5 major categories. A draft went out with your agenda. This draft was basically sent to the Federal Highway, Federal Transit, and DOT to get their comments initially. They should be sending comments to us by the mid to late April, at which point we'll go out to our own 30-day public comment period and look for MPO board endorsement in May. So there'll be endorsement of the UPWP. I think there's the planning roles and roles and responsibilities. There'll be a authorization form for Sam to, enter into agreement with DOT and all that, so we can get our PO funds over the next 2 years. So at this point, I just wanted to send it out early, so you have 2 months to look at it. We'll talk about it again and we'll send it out, once we get DOT comments again, which should be minor, and then bring it to the board in May.
Any questions? Okay. The SS4A Comprehensive Safety Action Plan.
Yeah, sure. Just a quick update on SS4A. That's our safety action plan, federal highway discretionary grant that we've been working on. Let's see here. We are setting up a public or advisory committee meeting in a couple weeks. This will be to actually look at our last public meeting, mapping tool summaries. There's a policy review and draft recommendations, technical memo to go over, as well as looking at the corridor study selection process, such as the methodology, the corridors. There will also be individual municipal profiles for each town, and talk about the next steps. Basically, at this point, the next steps after advisory committee meeting will probably be a public meeting, and the consultant, FHI, will begin developing the draft plan. We are on schedule to have that draft plan in roughly August or September, and hopefully have that finalized around Thanksgiving. So that's where we're standing with that. Before it's finalized, obviously there'll be another advisory committee meeting, another public meeting and things like that. But we are on schedule. To the schedule we had submitted to the feds when we started the project.
Any questions? Okay, other transportation, the 5310 active transportation micro grant.
Yep, there's a couple things under the other. 5310 applications are due April 1st. I do have one so far from Cromwell. I'll probably have some from River Valley Transit as well. In terms of the active transportation microgrants, we had talked about that earlier, a couple months back. DOT did renew the program for 2025. For the first quarter, they are due Friday. At this point, I have 5 or 6 applications, which is the most I've gotten in any given quarter, so that's good. I will get those over to DOT, and hopefully by the end of next month, Paula can be cutting the checks and getting those out to the applicants. One other thing related to active transportation, DOT is updating their active transportation plan as well. So you may be hearing from me or Marco soon about working with HDR, which is DOT's consultant, to kind of tour the towns. We'll probably do a full day tour and figure out who and where we might want to go out to, looking at all our existing plans and data. I mean, the Route 1 corridor in downtown Middletown seem to be where most of the vulnerable road users crashes are at this point. But if anyone has any suggestions, you can reach out to us. We hope to do that tour probably late April and early May, probably be a full day. So we'll probably be coming out to probably get a bus or some vehicles and go out to each town or the towns that are interested, you know, as many as we can in a day, maybe 4 or something, but we'll be reaching out on that soon as well.
Any questions for Rob? Okay, Rob, thank you very much.
Yep.
Transit District, Brendan.
Well, actually, Joe is on as well.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Sure thing. Oh yeah, I can definitely give an update there.
Sorry.
No problem at all. Yeah. So couple things we have going on.
Side by side here.
That's right.
We all get a little squirrely. Go ahead, Brent.
That's right. Sounds good. Yeah. So we have some new service changes coming up. We're looking to have those go live around May 27th. A couple of the highlights are transitioning a lot of the shoreline routes from a flex route to a fixed route. Basically means that we'll be adding 8-day paratransit service to these routes, as well as that'll also improve our on-time performance and be removing the deviations from the flex routes. We're also going to be adding Saturday service on Route 644, which is the route that goes from Old Saybrook to Middletown. So that's good service for Old Saybrook, Chester, Deep River, Haddam, and Middletown. So that'll now have Saturday service, and mean that most of our routes in the shoreline will now have Saturday service, which is great. So it's a good little increase there. And then also we also make some change to bus routes themselves, so the actual routes and where the buses go, right? So we have 3 routes we're looking to tweak. That one being 582 in Middletown for better access to the new Big Y location that's been built there, as well as serving Vinyl and Mercy High School. On the 642, we're going to be shortening that route a little bit to make sure it can arrive on time. Consistently, it's running very late right now. That's the local route from Old Saybrook to Essex, Chester, and Deep River. And then this is 645, we're going to be removing the Beechwood Loop in Killingworth, as we have not seen really any ridership at all from that, and it adds a good 5 minutes in which it's affecting on-time performance. So we tried to see if it would work, and just no one's using it. So that's those are sort of the big changes there. The electric buses should be on the road hopefully sometime next week. It's been a process to get those ready to go for a variety of different reasons, but hopefully those will be on the road next week, which is exciting. So be on the lookout for that. We're also working on our bus stop transition, right? So we're trying to go from a flag subsystem where there are only a very few bus stops to a more traditional bus stop system. So that'll involve installing hundreds of signs across our region here on our routes. We've submitted an RFP, and now we're reviewing proposals for a contractor to install and permit and replace those signs. So we're currently working on reviewing those proposals, and we'll be finalizing our locations soon with more information to follow. So we're going to be kind of picking our final locations to go forward with soon. And then finally, just on Extra Mile, our expansion there, our new Madison Guilford zone in Middletown are doing excellent. The ridership is great over there. In East Hampton, we're struggling a little bit, but we've also recently made some action there. So we've now changed. Before it was just the Belltown area of East Hampton. We've now moved to the entire town of East Hampton. So we're hopeful that that'll allow for more riders to use it. And hopefully that'll have it reround in year 2. And then Tap and Ride, it's going well. Our new fare payment devices are going well. And we've recently added a process for seniors and riders with disability to actually get their half-off discount by assigning that discount to their card. So they can now, through a process online, they can now apply for that, for the card to get the half-off discount. So they can use the Tap and Ride system as well. So that's what I have for updates there. Unless Joe missed anything, but happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Hey, Joe, go ahead.
Just curious, have you seen an increase in ridership since the beginning of the year? Just curious.
Yeah, so certainly, especially, with all the added service, we've actually been able to sort of isolate what we got from the added service. We definitely got a decent amount. There are the numbers with me right now, but we've been very happy with the weeknight increases, Saturday night increases, and Sunday has been good as well in Middletown. So
we increased are up 16%.
There you go. Yep. And we're seeing lots of good ridership across the board right now. So
that's great.
Yep.
Thanks.
Joe, you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think Brendan covered a lot.
Yes. Try to do it quickly too.
Just want to check. I didn't want to see him to get mad.
The one thing I'll add is I'll just brag about Middletown Extra Mile. I mean, they're doing very well. But our vendor, who's the largest vendor of microtransit software in the world, has told us that we are probably in the top globally for productivity in Middletown. We had one day where we hit 210 trips with only 2 vehicles on the road.
Right.
So that's really high productivity. So
Like 10 rides an hour. Yeah.
a lot. So our zones are doing great, but that one's just really, they said those are like Midtown Manhattan numbers.
Right.
Congratulations.
Yeah, great job.
Those college kids like using those apps and like using that service. So it works because a lot, they just, it's a short distance and they'll go from, some of them will even take it to get around the campus, and we'll take it to go, to the shopping centers or downtown. And some Middletown residents will also use it too. So it's a good mix of people who are using it.
And while you're on the camera, I just wanted to relay something from Federal Highway and Federal Transit Administration. We had our quadrennial recertification review earlier this month, and we had a debriefing with them, and they were incredibly impressed by Brendan and his work doing transit planning with the transit district and the arrangement that we have with RiverCOG as Brendan as a RiverCOG employee working on assignment to the transit district. They thought that was an excellent model, and they were really impressed by your knowledge and your success. So I wanted to relay that in front of the board.
Boy, I really appreciate that, Sam, and again, a lot of that knowledge and stuff comes from Joe as well, because you can't have a better teacher than Joe when it comes to transit. So give Joe a shout out as well. Yeah.
But yeah, they were very impressed, and congratulations.
Okay,
Thank you.
very much, gentlemen. All right, moving on to COG business. And the first item up is the item that we added on the regional election advisor and
Why don't you get the report first, and then we'll talk about it.
Sure. So, what's current right now in your towns is that, the new election equipment is starting to arrive, your new tabulators. And, that was all negotiated, contracted with the state. The company is called ES&S. They're out of the Midwest, but they have a Connecticut location in Enfield. It'll be serving Connecticut, Lower Mass. And they partnered with the state last week. They did 3 different introductory calls, so registrars can tune in and learn about the company, who to contact for customer service, technical support. Enfield will house the equipment being delivered town by town, and their technicians will come out of Enfield for when your town has an issue with the equipment. Hopefully not frequently. The equipment operates like a scanner. It does take thinner paper than the traditional ballots. So the company has worked, most of your registrars order from a company in New Britain, Atkins Printing. They have worked with Atkins to stock that paper, so your registrars can still get their ballots from the same company. They can also get them direct from ES&S. ES&S has been in business 45 years. They have a large customer service team 24/7. And they're starting training and delivery in your towns based on your referendum dates. All your referendum dates were submitted to the state. So they're coming out in order of that. Up to 4 people from your town can be allowed in the training class. And typically it's gonna be your registrars, deputies, or your registrars moderators. So that is what is currently happening. I'm in touch with your registrars with their referendum dates to make sure that they've gotten the emails from ES&S. And that's basically the hot thing right now. So.
any questions for Carol? Okay, Sam, we'll go into the contract.
So you'll see a memo telling where we are, and I'll go over those highlights. Also in the packet is a summary letter from Carol about her activities for last quarter, and then a representative invoice for February for her work. So I'll just go over the position. The regional election advisor position, formerly the regional election monitor program, is about 10 years old, and Carol has been our contractor for those services for almost 10 years. We did not approve a contract renewal last fall because we were waiting to see if we were going to get money from the Secretary of State for the position. We were promised that under a public act from 2023. Unfortunately, we never got an MOU. I did testify to the Government Administration Elections Committee, and the co-chairs were very interested in the fact that this isn't happening, so hopefully they'll follow up on this. In my testimony, I suggested that they remove that or deadline from the funding, because in the last 2 years, the Secretary of State, she's not been able to enter into that MOU by March 1st. If we had received that money, it would have been $25,000 per year for a program that we've been spending much less on. But under my authority as executive director, I continued to pay Carol on a month-to-month basis based on our previous contract. And I had her summarize her hours for February. She put in the equivalent of 27.25 hours. That $510 for that month. In the contract, do we pay you a lump sum at the beginning? As well as so.
There's usually a 20% down.
Yeah,
And then
20%
the
down.
monthly.
Yeah, so if you take that 20% down, it's actually a little bit higher than $19 an hour, but it's still based on the amount of work she's putting in. We heard from the town manager at Clinton about Carol's assistance with both of her registrars leaving the service of the town and having to start with 2 new ones. This program used to be was an unfunded mandate. In 2023, the requirement to actually have a regional election advisor was removed, but also that's when they added the funding, supposedly. We opted to continue the program because of Carol's support to the towns. What I am recommending is to enter into a new 2-year agreement with her through the end of December 31st, 2026, at the amount of $12,500 per year. So it'd be a total of $25,000 over 2 years. It is an increase of about $3,000 from the previous amount, which I think was $9,000. So it is a significant increase, but still, based on the amount of work she's doing, and if you calculate that out to hourly rate, is still incredibly reasonable for an independent contractor.
Questions?
So what are other COGs doing? Some
So-
COGs don't have a regional monitor,
So
and some do.
yeah, so Bridgeport never did.
Yeah.
That COG decided. Even though the law was passed specifically for that, we never participated. And there was no stick in the law, so every region has participated to some extent. But right now, the most active is RiverCOG in Northeast Connecticut COG. And it's mostly the smaller, more rural towns that need the support more. And also, as in the case of Bridgeport, some of the regions don't really want to get involved in elections at all. Luckily, we don't typically have the negative consequences associated with being involved in elections here.
So how many how many are there in the state
So
right now?
now, I think we might be the only 2. But I'm not sure, but when I brought that up to the other COG directors, the COG director said, no, we do stuff. I don't know how active they are. Yeah, and so because I've said statewide that we were the only 2, and then they said, oh, no, we do it too. So they may be doing some of these tasks either with staff or some other way, but I don't think they don't have a name per a contractor who's doing the work.
Where are we taking the funding from?
So it's coming from a regional services grant. A number of years ago, I think it might have been 2016, 2017, Laura Francis raised this issue because it was an unfunded state mandate. She said, we shouldn't be paying dues for it. So I said, this will come out of state funds. We do, and this is in our work program for our regional services grant that we get from the state. So. Yes.
So through 26, then it's through the grant, the funding for.
Oh, it's through our existing funding
Okay.
Grant that we get on an annual
Okay.
basis from the state. We put in our work program.
Right. And I just wanted to say to you, Carol, that I spoke with one of our registrars yesterday, Tracy. I know you work closely with Tracy, right? She said that you're very helpful and she appreciates that. And that it's a good idea to continue to have you work with the towns here. And in light of Michelle's letter too, having lost 2 registrars with 20+ years experience at the same time. That's a huge loss to a town, right? So are you educated on the same level that a registrar is? So in other words, can you step in case somebody just becomes ill, registrar becomes ill, the elections are upcoming and there are deadlines and so on. Can you help the town
So I
through
can
a,
guide the
through a
town.
situation like that, a crisis situation,
Yes. I was a multi-term registrar, before this position. And I continued with all the training I have to have, certain training by statute. And we continue our training every year. I think we have a mandatory 8 or 10 hours. So by statute, the deputy has to step in. But I certainly can be there and guide. It's happened in towns where I go to the town and help guide, the deputy. So in small towns, the trick in small towns is the daily workload is not heavy enough to really train a deputy. It's like, there's just not enough there. Sometimes it's like, you get 4 voter reg cards and we save 1 for the deputy so we can show them how to put it in the system and print a letter and, that kind of situation you have in very small towns. So certainly when the deputy steps in, a lot of time in a small town, they need guidance and I can do that. But by statute, it's the deputy. And I do want to interject something about Bridgeport is, they don't have a quote regional advisor, but this current administration and the Secretary of State's office assigned them their own task force. And the one heading the task force is a retired attorney from the state who set up really this regional program. I worked with her a lot, Peggy Reeves, tough lady, knows everything you want to know about elections. And she's down there every election with them, with a group of people and as oversight. So they kind of have a different situation going on down there. They have their own task force happening there.
Federal task force.
Yeah. The main problem in small towns, which RiverCOG, other than Middletown, is considered small towns, and Northeast COG, where there's also a counterpart, is the offices are typically 1 and 1 of each party registrar. Where Middletown, a bigger town, Fairfield County, they are fully staffed. They might have 4 to 5 people full-time doing data entry, cleaning up the list, so if somebody leaves, retires sick, somebody else knows the job. And in small towns, that's not what's happening. I've had to walk in and go right from the start of, like in Clinton, like, here's the Secretary of State's website. Here's how you get manuals. Here's how you, right, because nobody else is in there to show them anything. That's the basic problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Carol or Sam?
One statement I'll make is that Carol has mentioned to me that, in her reports, she does not talk about sensitive personnel issues that a number of towns face. So a number of towns face issues with the registrar. There are personnel issues that are confidential in nature, and so she doesn't report on them. But from what she's told me is that she gets involved in a number of these situations. Mostly is like when a registrar cannot work and can't fulfill their duties. And she, obviously will not report that in a public forum such as the COG meeting, but she gets involved in a number of those situations to try to help out the town, but will not report on those.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to renew Carol contract for 2 more years?
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Carol. Thank
For
you.
your support and time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Janice has his household waste.
Yes, good morning. It's going to be April soon and our hazardous waste program is starting up. We have April 5th, paper shredding event in East Hampton at the Water Pollution Control Facility. And April 19th, in Clinton for hazardous waste. So they're starting up. I do have a new flyer here that is in Spanish that I will be sending everybody. That's pretty much what we're, getting a new contract with our hauler MXI. As far as signing to add East Haddam to our collections. That's pretty much hazardous waste and paper shredding. It's gonna start rolling.
Okay, any questions for Janice?
Could you
Yes,
send us both, Janice, just both English and Spanish? Thank you.
Yes.
Make sure we have the most updated things.
For hazardous waste, does that include sharps or is that separate?
That is not included in
Okay.
hazardous waste.
Okay. Do we have to leave the number of calls we get from people? Just
Our
saying,
sharps?
can you take our sharps?
Right.
There are, yeah, there's,
What's a sharp?
so like, like, let's say.
Needle.
Use needles.
Needle,
Yeah,
laser.
there's some like medication or.
Gotcha,
They're
gotcha, gotcha.
told
But
to
there are instructions like how to dispose of them properly.
Yes, which we
take
do
the nipple
remit.
off, stick them in a hard plastic container, tape it up tight, write on it, sharps.
And it
And
goes
it
in
does
the
go in
regular
the
trash.
trash.
Yes, that is the advice we have been given, but just in case there's.
A change.
Yeah,
Yeah. I like smoke detectors.
yeah.
We're hoping.
go ahead, Sam.
Oh, and I'll just state that we worked with the COG attorney, Steve Mennick on, we had signed an interlocal agreement, a couple years back. And that interlocal agreement had a provision for adding a new town to the program, with a 2/3 majority vote of the existing participants, which is this other 16. So assuming that passes, we really wanted to avoid having to enter into a brand new interlocal agreement. But once this one expires, we will do a new one that includes everyone. He felt comfortable enough allowing East Haddam to join because that provision was approved as part of the signing of the current interlocal agreement.
Yes, there was a hazardous waste committee meeting where they recommended to this group to accept East Haddam joining. East Haddam will be joining the program in April. So they will be joining early to just start at the beginning of the season. They're going to be paying for that. And then the invoice that you all are getting, they will get one at the beginning of this next fiscal year.
And
Yeah,
Okay, we got ahead of ourselves.
I know.
Oh, sorry.
We were on hazardous waste.
Oh,
We're rolling.
sorry.
Now we're on, East Haddam. You guys already got them in. We haven't voted.
We have the signed contract here. They have signed it. So it's your vote.
So assuming we say okay.
Yeah.
All right, in that case, moving along to adding East Haddam to household hazardous waste. Can I get a motion? Motion and second. Any further discussion?
I can just say that having them join, it's cheaper for all the other towns. And I will be sending out a new flyer including them.
In English and Spanish?
Yes.
Thank you.
There's not a lot of French people there, man.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, East Haddam is now a member. All right, Agricultural Council update?
Yes, we have our monthly meetings. We have had speakers come to our last couple of meetings. We talked about the wrap on the bales of hay, that plastic wrap, and how to dispose of it. There's a program up in Vermont. We're looking into what we can do down here. We'll see. But all that wasted plastic, it'd be really nice if we could recycle it. We've talked again about boat wrap. So looking into recycling.
They
those
collect
plastics.
it and they make benches.
That's through Trex, yes, yes,
Yeah.
it has to be clean and dry.
I'm on my fourth bench.
Are you now?
Oh,
Oh,
that's
congratulations,
And-
nice.
And is it the same as the boat ramp as well?
They're
Yes,
not exactly the same film.
Yeah.
it's kind of like,
It's very similar, but yeah. The problem is the farmers can collect it, but getting it to where they recycle it is the expense. So working on. We'll see.
Okay, any questions on the Agriculture Council? All right, Regional Waste Authority. Update, Janice.
There you go. This is
Oh,
Marco.
sure. Thank you,
Take
Janice.
it away, Marco.
Yes, okay, morning, good news, we're under contract for RWA, the Regional Waste Authority grant from DEEP. We've signed with, RRS, their resource recycling systems out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. So the contract is signed, we're working on an internal meeting, to get everything in place, probably in the next week or so, and then we'll actually start the work probably at the beginning of April. So that's all.
Questions?
It's just, you know, with the whole mirror discussion,
Yeah.
Essex transfer station. Most of the participating towns now will probably stay together. Hoping for, I guess, a privatized operation. There's a lot in the air, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that's all gonna relate to the outcomes of, you know, the expected outcomes of the grant, so maybe, I don't know,
So.
there's a lot in the
I
air.
would have a suggestion on that though, so. At the very, I mean, this, what we're, let me start over.
This is
very far.
a long meeting this past week.
We had a meeting the other day and there are probably 8 or 9 towns, probably 8 that are still interested in going to the Essex transfer station privately. However, that is a short-term solution, so the timing is probably very good on this because this is gonna take a year for them to tell us, hey, these are some options, these are some efficiencies, these are some, you know, new programs, these are some ways to reduce waste and recyclables, so the timing will probably be pretty good, even if it's not an RWA at the end of the road. That's what I think.
And through contract negotiations, we did talk to them about some of the moving pieces in the region. We also talked to them about maybe an RWA, like you said, is not the end goal, that whatever, we're looking for a custom tailored system that's gonna work for our region, so they're on board with that.
Yeah, and I know Norm is very much opposed to a regional waste authority. I could see value potentially in as a legal structure, but maybe not as an operational structure. And that's what I've said to Norm is that,
I mean,
you know, there might be value in creating it legally, but not actually using it just to make decisions and contracting purposes, but not necessarily as an entity that has its own staff.
Any additional questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Community partnership initiative.
Yeah, Marcos, take that.
Yep, so, RiverCOG was approached by, 3 towns, just to give you the short version, but some sustainability committees, from Chester, Deep River, you know, around the region, came to RiverCOG and they wanted to apply to Eversource's community partnership initiative, which is, it's a drive to get, to let residents who qualify for certain energy efficiency programs, get them the information and kind of get them connected through their home energy assessment program. Eversource also approached us at the same time. They wanted us to be the fiduciary agent. So, we worked with the towns, 4 towns submitted applications to RiverCOG, so they were Chester, Deep River, East Hampton, and Portland. And then we, composited those applications and submitted 1 application to Eversource. So we're waiting to see if we've been selected for funding. That drive is gonna be probably April 1st to like December 1st. So it's a quick drive. It's to push information about the home energy audits and the different energy efficiency programs to eligible residents. There's also gonna be a parallel program that Eversource wanted us to do as well for small businesses. So we're gonna partner with the local Chamber of Commerce's to get the word. It's the same program just for small businesses. I think this is the first time that Eversource has partnered with the COG to be the fiduciary agent, so it's good for them. They only have to do 1 application. It's good for us. We negotiated management and administration fee. So we're gonna get 28,000 if we're selected to manage it, so that works out to about 8 hours a week for 35 weeks. So, Janice and I will run that program out of RiverCOG as the fiduciary agent, and then on the ground, the individual sustainability committees are gonna provide their volunteer hours to get the word out. So we're also working with KSX to mention them, so that's all I have.
Any questions? Thank you.
Quick question.
Yeah,
Did we
question.
skip- Did we skip over Regional Agriculture Council or?
Oh,
No.
Okay, I.
Yeah, Janice talked about recycling the plastic on the
Oh,
bins.
that's what that was. Okay, thank you, sorry. No,
You got a question? We can go.
no,
back.
no, I just. It was just a
Bill
point of
would do
order,
that.
yeah.
Bill's very good. Bill's
Not a
got
problem.
his shit together.
Hazardous mitigation, Mark?
Good morning, everyone. For the Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan, we are under contract with LEAP as of March 18th. We have our first meeting with the consultant to work out contract details on 4/1. And then we should be able to get going within a month or 6 weeks on getting our planning committee, regional planning committee together, which includes all of you, unless you designate someone else to participate in your place. And we'll be getting a memo out about the meetings. There should be, if it runs like last time, 3 regional meetings for all of you to participate in. 2 half-day meetings and 1 3/4-day meeting, which sounds like a lot, but it's over about 14 months. And then there will be 2 or 3 public meetings. And then the most important role for all of you is to, we will have individual municipal meetings. And getting your town staff to that meeting with the consultant is very important for the plan, but I also think it's really important for your town because it's a really great chance to get your emergency management people together with your public works and your planners and whoever else you think is important to have at that table in a conversation about projects that need to be completed for your town. So that's a really critical role that you play for the planning process. So we'll get that out to you as soon as we have the final meeting and the contract with Dewberry signed and everything. So that's really great that's underway. So that's the hazard mitigation plan update.
Any
Anybody have any
questions?
questions? So we will need to have a formal email naming the participant in the regional planning committee, even if it's you or your designee for that. So we can put that in with the plan information, the final document.
So you'll be mailing that out?
Yeah,
asking-
well, yeah.
Okay.
Eliza, will you be emailing that out or will Elizabeth?
Whichever one of us you want to do it.
Yeah.
We're both more than happy to.
But just to let you know.
It'll come from the cog.
Yeah.
There you go, there you go.
Land trust, Mark.
So for the land trust update, we had our 4th of our technical committee meetings for the regional conservation plan update, which is based on natural resources. So that was great. We got that in under the deadline for the, we were worried about the continuing resolution for National Park Service. So that went really great, had a really good meeting. We'll continue to work with National Park Service on developing the final document, and I'll be doing all the mapping for that and public outreach for that, community outreach. So we can get the plan out for everyone to take a look at and hopefully use in their planning work. And then we award, as I mentioned that time, we awarded the Mountain J. Woody Regional Conservation Award, and we did announce it and gave out the award to Bob Nussbaum from Essex Land Trust. He's been a member of Essex Land Trust since 2007 and has held every position in the land trust and has really just been involved in every aspect for years and has just done really great work. So the board of the land trust gave the award to him. We did have 3 fabulous nominees, so we're really lucky. And Karen picked the award ceremony.
Just kind of this is my first experience with the award, and I just wanted to share that for to be able to see a volunteer, a town resident, receive the award, he was totally surprised and just so appreciative. And it was such an easy way to show, you know, appreciation on the town's behalf and the COG's behalf. So, I would definitely encourage you to talk with your staff or your board members to think about who you could nominate, because it was so easy and just, I think, you know, gave him a little bit more, not that he needed motivation to keep volunteering, but just that little bit of appreciation was much appreciated. Yeah.
And the two other nominees that we got should be resubmitted for next year,
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
because they were excellent nominees.
Yeah, yeah. So that was really fun, and it's really great to be able to celebrate somebody like that. And so if you, I think we did send out the notice to everybody about the awards, or you could put that in your email blast or your, you know, your weekly newsletters you do to your town, stuff, that would be really great.
Any questions on land trust? Okay, invasive species?
Yeah, so the major thing that I have to talk to you about today is the cost share program with Army Corps that, a few months ago, probably about 6 months ago, you, voted on to send a letter of intent to Army Corps to, let them know, that you would like to participate in the cost share program. And we were accepted, as a sponsor of that program by Army Corps, as was, the Connecticut Ag Experiment Station. Greg Buckley is here. He runs the Office of Aquatic Invasive Species. And so they were accepted as a sponsor too. So the Army Corps has gotten to a point, and Keith, Gannon, the project manager for the Connecticut River Hydro project, is on, online here too for any questions that you might have. But last week they came and asked us, the Ag Experiment Station and RiverCOG, how we felt about, did we want to go under the umbrella of the Ag Experiment Station? Would we like to remain as a sponsor on our own? So, and both of us get named. So we've had some conversations about that. We thought what would be a good situation for us would be to have the Ag Experiment Station take a lead, especially on the projects that they already are working on, like Bashan Lake and others lakes that they have worked with for a long time. And that we could stay in there as a sponsor and play a backup role or a partnership role for when they aren't able to do projects or submit projects on your behalf, that we could do that work too. So Greg, would you like to say anything about that?
Yeah, I'm Greg Bugby. I head the Office of Aquatic Invasive Species at the Ag Station. Margot and I have been involved in invasive aquatic work now, probably since like 2016 or 17 or 18, particularly when it came to the hydrilla that was found in the Connecticut River. We discovered at the Ag Station, it was actually a completely new strain that had never been documented before in North America. With Margot's help, we were able to procure some funds from the Connecticut River Gateway Commission and the 8 Mile Wild and Scenic to do the first complete survey of the Gateway Zone, the southern area of the Connecticut River for hydrilla. And we were able to document it is an extremely significant problem. There's areas like the Mattabesset River tributary that are completely engulfed in the plant. From that funding, we were able to get further funding from Connecticut Deep to do a survey of the entire Connecticut River, and found that this plant starts at Agawam, Mass, and heads south, approximately 1,000 acres of it, and is the most significant problem now in the river. Margot has been just extremely beneficial when it came to bringing in the government and non-government agencies that she works with to bring in the Army Corps of Engineers, which Keith Hannon is on. Hopefully, you can speak to this program. Through this work, the Army Corps has been able to get significant funding through Senator Blumenthal's office and others to bring in their expertise and their resources to the problem. And there's literally millions of dollars on their end now being brought to bear on managing this problem. And the most recent development, again, largely through Margot's efforts, when she initially brought this up to me, I said, well, is this something that, you know, is likely to ever happen? Because I always, as a state agency, I see so many things talked about and never happen. But she stuck with it, and now we have this potential and really good potential to bring the Army Corps funds, federal funding, to the issue of not only the Connecticut River hydrilla, but also all invasive aquatic plants throughout the state of Connecticut. This is, I think, really good news. And what would occur would be that the Army Corps needs sort of state sponsors, sort of a flow-through agency to kind of watch over what's going in the state, you know, submit applications to the Corps, and then they would approve or disapprove them, and then there'd be some sort of paperwork involved in the sponsoring agency to see that funding gets to the those stakeholders that need it. So the funding, maybe I'll just, Keith, can you take over a little bit? Can we get him on to talk about the program?
Sure. Can you hear me? Yes? I can't. Okay, good. Sorry. I was having internet issues earlier. Yeah, but thanks, Greg. So my name's Keith Hannon. I'm working for the New England District for the Army Corps of Engineers. And so, yeah, we're really excited to assist the state of Connecticut by establishing this cost share program. So it's not a grant program like the Connecticut Deeps. So I just wanted to start with that to clarify that it's a 50-50 cost share, but it's more reimbursement. So we are involved with helping to identify the projects that would be eligible to receive these funds. And then we work with the local entities through either the RiverCOG or the Ag Experiment Station to make sure the work is being done correctly. And then we work with them to see all the invoices at the end and reimburse 50% once the project's completed. And so the work we've been doing currently is under a research and demonstration authority within the Connecticut River watershed only. And so, and it's not a cost share program. And that research project is 100% federally funded. So this new program that Margot and Greg are talking about is to expand beyond just the watershed of the Connecticut River. It's going to be for the whole state of Connecticut. And as you may be aware, the Connecticut River strain of hydrilla is spreading beyond the river. So the hydrilla species is remaining a priority project for this program right now to help prevent its further spread as much as we're able to contribute to and assist with. But this cost share program exists in other districts within the country through the Army Corps. It just hasn't been set up yet in the New England district. And I think that kind of speaks to just the realities of how invasive species are spreading into new areas. They haven't been as such a big problem in New England as they have been in some other more warmer southern climates. But we are, like I said, excited to expand this opportunity with the existing program into a new area. And we're starting with the state of Connecticut. That's a brief summary update, but definitely happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
You mentioned the Mattabesset River, but are all the tributaries to the Connecticut River affected or?
Yeah. Basically, we surveyed again the entire Connecticut River and its tributaries, and just about every tributary is affected. 8 Mile River, Amber Cove in areas, yes. So it's throughout the state, yes.
And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the planning process that Army Corps goes through. And that is, once they receive a letter of intent from someone that wants to be a sponsor, then the Army Corps takes that letter of intent and then does what they call a letter report. And it's basically a planning document and an environmental assessment of the region or the area that the letter of intent is for. And they they look at everything and determine, come to conclusions about whether the Army Corps, this is something that the Army Corps should be, supporting, within their framework and the national framework, of how their funding is spent, and maybe Keith can, talk a little bit about that. It is a program, for all invasive species, but the Army Corps does set the priorities as to what species they are willing to be cost share for. So, hydrilla is one, bulrush is another. That's, I think on a federal, nationwide level, those are supported within the cost share program. So I'm not sure about if they would support any project on anything. It would be set, the priorities would be set in their planning document for the state of Connecticut. Do I have that right, Keith?
Yeah, overall, I think we work with the local entities and sponsors to establish the priorities. We work with you to help us to tell us what the priorities are for your state.
So I guess, so I just wanted to bring this to you, Sam, and I wanted to bring this to you just to make sure that you were on the same page with us, and that you would, like to work with, at the Ag Experiment Station in this way, and partner with them and back them up, when needed, and, assist in getting projects done that need to get done. And we've worked collaboratively throughout this whole process with the hydrilla, and, I think we have a really strong partnership, so we're just asking for, acknowledgement of that partnership. As, Army Corps is going ahead with their, documentation and planning efforts.
Anyone with questions or comments or?
Guess I'm just a little, the concept I get, but how does that like individually affect my municipality? Who you offer me guidance to, our harbor master wants to put in a kind of a hose down by the boat launch to wash off boats, is this something that we would get some guidance to, if that's a good idea, if that's even.
There
a useful
definitely be
thing, or-
guidance, we might, again, the Army Corps is gonna be providing guidance as well. So it's a partnership, they'll be reviewing these things. And we can bring in other state agencies like, Connecticut Deep Boating Division, who may be handling, things like boat wash stations. But my interpretation is the funding is against a 50-50 match. Boat wash stations could be included, education could be included as management, whether it's, potentially harvesting or an herbicide or something, all that is potentially could be included. Again, the Corps will be making the final decision as to what they want to fund,
Okay.
but they will be relying on the sponsors, I think, a lot for the information.
Okay, thank you for that.
So I think the analogy before was with the RiverCOG, like that little boy holding his finger in the dike. And I think it's gonna come down to when is the state, or more importantly, the feds, gonna take this serious and develop a program to really tackle this in a manner in which it would eradicate this type of species. Anyone?
I think, it is moving much slower at the national level than we wish that it would, but we really feel that I feel anyway, Greg can speak to this and Keith also, that there is momentum now in, creating these types of, processes that will enable communities to, and states to react. It's a rapid response, initiatives that this is all about, really. So that, when you find a little bit, you go get it, and you don't wait for the problem to become so huge that there's nothing to do about it. So that's what this work is all about, is enabling the state of Connecticut to rapidly respond to the problem, and local communities too, so that we nip these things in the bud instead.
I understand all that, but outside of RiverCOG, is anyone doing anything?
Well,
Well,
Greg is
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, and Keith can touch on there's what's become quite a number of, projects that the Corps has been doing throughout the river system, and it's being expanded. The northernmost, finding of this plant, hydrilla anyway, is Agawam, Mass, and they are starting, they now working with Mass to develop, a demonstration project to see if they can control the northernmost, section of the hydrilla. Obviously, everything's flowing south from there, so it'd be nice to work it from the northernmost end down, for a control method. But I think a really, a lot has been going on over the last few years with literally, again, Keith, you want to just talk about the demonstration projects and the funding and all that that's gone into it so far?
Absolutely, sure. So yeah, we've received congressionally authorized funds over since 2022, in the order of about $10 million. So we've been putting that to a lot of actual scientific research. So a lot of the work we're doing involves growing this plant in mesocosm tanks, growing it with native species, and then exposing all of them to different formulations of herbicides, because the goal is to try to preserve as much of the native species as we can. And that's the research component of this project. But those level of resources, the Connecticut Deep does not have, and they've been very reluctant to respond at the scale that would be required to, control hydrilla at its current extent. So, I mean, that's not actually something the Corps is going to be able to achieve either. Just the scale of the extent right now is so big we're way past what Margot was referring to as the rapid response for small, new infestations or populations. So there is a lot of challenge moving forward, and there definitely needs to be a plan put together. But the information the Corps is developing is intended to be passed off to the local entities, to help combat the invasion at the local level, to the greatest extent practicable. But I think the expectations of full eradication in the entire river system is not realistic, because you remove the plant in some areas, it's going to spread back into that area from the untreated areas. It's very good at spreading, unfortunately.
The program that Keith works for is funded solely by appropriations, which was my question, why I asked Julia about how appropriations are working in the continuing resolution. So that's one change that needs to be made, I think, at the national level, is that these programs aren't fueled just by appropriations, as they become a line item in a regular budget. And so that's one thing that we have to work towards. But right now, Senator Blumenthal's office is the one that has spearheaded the appropriations for the program that was referred to, that began in 2022. So we are working hard to keep those appropriations coming, and increasing the size of the program, not only for the state of Connecticut, but to New England wide in New York. So, I think that's the only way that we can keep moving invasive species funding ahead, is to keep talking to our congressional delegation and making it a priority at the national level, because it didn't really cost us a lot of money at the local level. So that's my only answer I have from that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just got one other thing to say. When talking about rapid response, again, this is a new genetically distinct strain that was found in the river. Extremely aggressive, much more aggressive than basically any other plant we've seen. And because it's a genetically distinct strain, we are now able to track its spread, and it's spreading into our lakes and ponds. It's spread into Meecher Pond in Middletown, and the Corps, and Keith maybe can speak, is working to do an actual treatment of that pond, part of their demonstration project. So we now can see it sort of marching into our lakes, and it's now in 10 different lakes in the state. We've done genetics on the plant, and yes, it is the Connecticut River strain. We just found it last year in Bashan Lake, and working on trying to deal with that. It's been found in, what are the other ones around here? Patchogue Pond, Amos Lake, Pocatapog, very spread out throughout Pocatapog. Gardner's Lake, it's now in, spreading, so these new lakes where it's in are opportunities to catch it early and respond to it, and we're working on that as well.
Okay, yes.
Because it's so aggressive. My understanding is because it's so aggressive, it could really rapidly choke out ecosystems in the waterways, so. There really should be a priority, yeah, for a lot of reasons, but fish, right, impacts.
Yes, absolutely, and
Fish,
it is a
everything.
priority for Army Corps. And
Yeah.
Army Corps is the primary federal agency, I think, that really is working on research and development for aquatic invasive species. There's not that many people that work on it in the country, really, not that many scientists. So we are really, really fortunate to have the Army Corps research team and Greg's team, we've added staff to the office. And they're beginning their own research programs and things. So we have actually made great strides in the last few years. We just really need to keep that momentum up.
And
because-
public education's key.
Yes, yes.
Taking your paddleboard, your kayak out, make sure you're not transferring cells to another water body.
Yeah, and then there's one actually thing that is concerning me with the new bridge construction that's going on and the transfer of the fishing activity that's gone on at the dock by the bridge. Now it's moving to Haddam, to the Eagle Landing State Park. And that the outreach that we need to do to the fishermen, because the hydrilla was not down at the park in Old Vine because that's salt water. But up in Haddam, that is fresh water and that is full of hydrilla up there. And that's how we think it got transferred to Patchogue, to Pemmichia Pond with by fishing.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, and I know you'll keep us posted. Marla is very passionate about this, and I commend you.
So it seems like everyone's in agreement with moving forward with the experiment station there.
I haven't heard anyone speak negatively about that, so
Thank you. Thank you.
just like to see more involvement from the feds in the state. Sam, do you have anything?
Yeah, so financial report, as of February 28th, 2025, the council had completed 8 months of its fiscal year. And overall spending was within the parameters of the $3.2 million budget. We're slightly over on dues, subscriptions, professional development, I'd already used 73% of the budget, but we're 67% of the year through. Also miscellaneous expenses are running a little high, but they're not too high. Service contracts may exceed the budget by year end due to hiring of some financial assistant from the Robert Half temp agency. So Paul has been getting assistance from a temp, and we had originally tried to put that under our transportation planning grant for some of the work that that the temp has been working on, but we were unable to do that. But I think there will probably be a decision soon about whether to hire this individual as a part-time assistant to Paula from the temp agency. That will be brought to the executive committee when making a decision on that. Let's see. Other items under legislation, I've been testifying at hearings and submitting a lot of testimony. We'll make sure we send out to our bill tracker spreadsheet, which shows what bills that we're watching. A number of bills are moving through through committees. A lot of them are not necessarily so great. On Friday, I
Can you
testified.
name one that's great?
Is there some rail?
I know that I testified in support of some bills, I don't, but not many. I'll give you, for example, on Friday, I testified before the Finance Review and Bonding regarding a bill that would prohibit towns from charging convenience fees for using credit cards to pay people's taxes. And I explained to people that people like me would pay their taxes on a rewards credit card to get their airline miles or get their 2% cash back. And that's gonna come at the expense of the town. And, you know, with revenues going down maybe 2%, and then the people who don't have the credit or access to credit will end up having higher taxes to pay for someone's reward points, and how that's not really fair. And,
Or we'll stop it as an option.
oh, yeah, and that's also what I put in my testimony was that right now it's a may, it's not a shall. So if you can't recoup your costs of accepting credit cards, then the towns won't accept them. And then the people who are in a bind to pay their taxes won't have credit cards as an option to pay them.
Is there a bill to put the same restriction on the state?
That's what it
Oh,
is.
no, it's the state and
State,
municipalities.
yeah, okay.
And so what I did was what I
I
put
don't know
in,
that it's for state taxes. I think it's for state professional fees.
yes.
It's for their licensures.
Yeah.
They're making it that the state can't take the charge, but it's not another thing.
And
And then they raise the price of the license.
yeah,
Oh, that's what you'd end up doing, but you
Yeah.
can't do that on taxes
yeah.
very easily.
And then I also put a suggestion out there that if you wanted to lower the fees, that maybe the Department of Revenue Services could negotiate a merchant services contract on the behalf of everyone. For, you know, the more money you can, the more business you can give a bank, the better rate they'll give you. And all the towns individually are probably paying the highest rate because you're not having a leverage with banks to get a good fee. So I put that out there and they said, oh, that sounds like a good idea. I said, yeah, no, please, yeah. So maybe that suggestion will come out of it and it'll be maybe a better negotiated rate. And that will save people use credit cards some money.
Did we finish the survey on the car tax? Did we get that out?
Yep, so now we just got the last couple of updates. I sent one at the end of last week, I believe, but I can send another. I got some more information as of Tuesday.
Hampton's a no.
Kenilworth's a no.
Thank you.
Last day.
Monday.
Probably no too.
Almost,
Lots of
we had a lot of
discussion about
no's. I'll send it out today, then I think that kind of almost wraps it up.
Very little discussion.
Well,
You see the data, it's kind
Yeah,
of.
mostly-
kind of telling.
Yeah, mostly no's. Offhand, I want to say that there were probably 3 or 4 yeses.
$7,000 in shift of tax.
Yeah, there were a number of,
Including, any costs to, implementing it, so like form assessment appeals and going back to PDS and so forth.
That's right.
well, Elizabeth, you can get those results out to everyone.
Yep, I'll send them out today. I think it wraps it up. We have everybody.
There were a number of bills that would allow by right housing development in all commercial buildings, in all commercial zones. By right redevelopment of hotels as housing. I spoke out against those and so did the Connecticut chapter of the American Planning Association. Just because not every commercial building, not every commercial zone is necessarily compatible with residential development, but that got put into Senate Bill 12, which is one of the big housing bills that's moving forward. They had a public hearing on Senate Bill 12, but there was no content in the bill that had a public hearing. So all this language has come much later after the public hearing, so we'll see what happens.
That seems like a fair process.
And no local control, right?
No, you would not, so currently, you can do what's called a special permit process, special exception. You can still set standards, for what that development could look like. But depending on the language, your control might be limited. But I ended up having a little debate with one of the legislators about that, septic systems and setbacks and those types of things are legitimate health, safety, welfare concerns that planning needs to address. And it just seems like there's this, this belief that the housing issues in Connecticut are all zoning. And as opposed to, it's expensive to build housing. Land is expensive, labor is expensive. And zoning in some places may cause, the process to be more expensive. But there are plenty of towns out there that are very permissive And a lot of the regulations that we have on the books today, are on the books, 30 years ago when we were building a lot more housing because we were growing. So yeah, it's not all on zoning, on zoning are issues with housing, so. And then the final thing that's gonna be coming out in the next few days is the state's fair share housing study, which allocates a number of units per town for your allocation of how much housing that you should be building. We participated with a presentation from OPM and their consultant last week. Megan had previously spoken to OPM and also we spoke to the consultant about some concerns with the methodology, about a potential double count and how they're doing it. We don't know what's going to look like yet, but when it comes out, we will make sure that you see it and you get our analysis of it. They took the need, more or less, the way that we calculated our need calculations were very similar because we looked at the same reference documents. State of Oregon has been doing housing planning for decades. And so that was, pretty common to us, but then they also looked at what was called either an equilibrium or structural mismatch about how many units in each pricing, in each sort of affordability category. And how many units would you have to build in each one of those pricing categories? Well, really that's about allocation of what types of units you build, but they took those two and added them together. So they took the need calculation and then they took what you would need in the different price categories and then took those two numbers and said, okay, well, one is an allocation of the other. And so, but we'll see what happens in the final document. Last night, yesterday at our housing committee, there was a discussion of this and clarification from OPM about how this was a study. This is not policy. And they were directed by Public Act to do the study, yet, it was a policy and it was an academic, they're really backpedaling.
Yeah, definitely. And they were encouraging us to, encourage you to speak to your legislators about this and about what you would like to have happen with this study. However, as Dan mentioned, we are already seeing bills coming out that would implement the study that's not finished yet. So.
And what there was two telling things that we learned that as of last week, the consultant who was writing the study was not engaged to present it or explain it to the legislators, which we thought was a major, which was telling because you'd want them to speak to us because they spoke to the joint a meeting of the joint housing and planning and development committees, although they really wrapped up their work at this point. So they're not going to be explaining it. And we really tried to explain to the consultants that our legislators are not going to understand what your study says. We're not even on training wheels. We're like on our big wheel, like a trike. We're pretty, whereas other states have been doing this for decades, we're really behind in understanding how you plan for housing.
This was a pretty good meeting up until you.
So anyway, so those are some of the, if you have bills coming up, finance revenue bonding is continuing to meet,
In terms of that bill, is there anything in the statute that delineates next steps, or is that just kind of up to the legislature to decide what to do?
Oh, yeah, good point, yeah, so the Fair Share Housing Study they were not allowed to consider implementation. And they were not allowed to consider what policies you're trying to implement. So it's a completely academic sort of exercise. And I think the consultant was put in I think their hands were tied by the statute. And in communicating about this, once it comes out to our legislators, we need to explain that we didn't hire, this consultant and say, how would you do this study for Connecticut? The Public Act kind of told them how to do it. And they pushed it as far out as they could in looking at a variety of scenarios.
Interesting, okay.
Anyway, but there are still some committees meeting. So if bills come up, please, please submit testimony, give me a heads up, we'll submit testimony and we'll see where all this goes. But I think,
Carl.
So,
Anything better than,
I think so, at least one piece. I thought I saw that, what did make it out of committee is putting a 5 cent charge on cell phone bills for firefighter cancer. So that we can fund that as opposed to it going into workers' comp, because I will tell everyone here, if firefighter cancer goes into workers' comp, your premiums are gonna skyrocket.
Yeah.
And that is still out there, but CCM, through some lobbying, has proposed to put a 5 cent charge on cell phones, cell phone bills. It's another tax, it's 5 cents. That's a slippery slope, I get it, but this could go in a better direction than where it was going, if that actually, so I would advise you to keep an eye on that. Doesn't affect everybody here. Tony, are you in MERS? Yeah. So the bill that, I mean, I just collectively bargained a police contract to sweeten their pension, for incentivizing officers to come to Old Saybrook. In addition to all the other stuff with incentivizing officers to come to Old Saybrook.
you didn't go to MERS, did you?
What?
You didn't go to MERS.
No, but there's a bill saying if your benefits are not equal to or comparable or better than what's at the state system, you're going into the state system for firefighters or cops. Which I'm like, so you want us to collectively bargain, but you want to then take that away if we don't do what you think is a good enough job. Then the other one that doesn't affect probably any of us is the $10,000 property tax credit for officers who serve in distressed municipalities. And so to incentivize officers to maybe go to Bridgeport or Hartford or.
Then they should live in Bridgeport and get
Right.
a tax break there.
Yeah, but that doesn't help the town with tax revenue either. It's just another exemption. And, CCM, Joe DeLong, like him, don't like him, he is 100% correct when he says the governor and this legislature balance the budget on the backs of the property taxpayers. That's what they've been doing for 10 years.
Yep.
And you go to a CCM meeting and you don't know who's Republican or who's Democrat. You do, but you don't. Because all the mayors and first selectmen are on the same page. And the legislators don't care. They don't care. You can have a Democrat mayor screaming, you can have a Republican screaming. They don't care. Julie Kushner is gonna do what she wants to do. So, that's my 2 cents. I'm angry today.
It'll be okay.
Amen.
That's good news.
Yeah, speaking.
Why are you angry today?
I'm not, I'm kidding.
So one bill that came through that I testified in support of, a positive one, it would create an Airbnb registry, so you'd be able to hold
Right.
Airbnb landlords accountable if there's problems. But it would also allow for a local tax that would be collected by Department of Revenue of up to 2.75%. So the towns can collect some revenue off the Airbnbs.
That's a local tax, but it's collected by Department of Revenue Services.
Right.
I'm seeing the catch already.
Yeah, where's it going?
Will be remitted, but and also the limitation, you're limited on what you can use it for, and the money is supposed to fund a local housing trust fund to mitigate the impacts of Airbnbs on your local rental market. So the idea is you would then take the money and then put that towards building rental housing that it can't be Airbnb.
Is that only Airbnb listed properties or any?
No,
short-term rental?
any short-term rental.
Okay.
So, but it has to be a short-term rental company that has at least $250,000 worth of business.
Do they define short term?
Yes, it is in statute. Yeah, it's like,
Less than 30.
less than 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but this would allow the town to have a tax, but you're right, it'd be collected by the state and then it would have to be remitted to the towns. And you'd be limited in how you could use it.
I only think of that because of the discussion at CCM recently about the casino revenues, that I can never remember the name of the actual.
Yeah. The only issue with the Airbnb issue, which I raised, was that you would have to register as a short-term rental landlord, but there was no provision in the statute to revoke a landlord's registration. So let's say you have a problematic Airbnb property, that's causing problems to the neighbors. There was no procedure in the bill to actually, a town to petition as part of revenue services to revoke their registration, so. I thought that was something which, if you want to make, if you want to keep them accountable, this is to have some consequences. I think that's it. And one last thing is, I will be attending, this weekend, the National Planning Conference in Denver, Colorado. This is the American Planning Association. It's obviously an interesting year out there with the new administration, so we'll see what I learned from my colleagues across the country.
And I'm presenting.
I am not presenting.
Oh. Is that it?
Yeah, that's.
Thank God.
Have these more often.
So I just wanna say it's been, really great seeing everybody in person. Been a little while. Next, month it will be a Zoom though, and then the following month,
Or June.
yeah, June.
Yeah. April, May.
Wait a minute, April, May. Yeah, June, we wanna do a get together, right?
Yeah, last year we went to Gillette Castle, if you remember. So if you have ideas for, a venue in your town that you want to, bring us out to, we can do breakfast, we do a lunch meeting. But we're open, get your ideas over to Elizabeth. And, this will be the fourth Wednesday of June.
25th. 25th.
Yeah, 25th. Yep, 25th of June. So if you have ideas,
I think a lunch would be.
yeah, lunch would be nice, maybe something on the water or a picnic or, yeah.
Water, Carl.
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask right now, see if it's available.
yeah. All right,
Right, Chilean, Old
Yeah.
Belly.
yeah. Yeah, so make sure there's seafood available.
From our accountant, Johnny Ants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Signatures on the interlocal agreement over here.
How are we dealing with the signatures for the interlocal?
We're just adding these,
I think we're, yeah.
We are just adding East Haddam. The
So,
other signatures were from the original contract, which are.
They've got them electronically.
Yeah.
They'll just take care of it that way.
so what we did was we didn't want everyone to have to go back to their board of selectmen or to go back and get authorization to sign a new interlocal agreement. And since the original one from 2 years ago did provide a method of adding another town, our attorney was comfortable with us having the vote here at the COG, Irene signing for her town. And then, but without having to bother all of you, having to go back to get authorization to sign again, because we have a number of new people, and it just seemed that as long as it's to everyone's benefit because it lowers the price, our attorney was comfortable with this.
I think Bob's reacting to the fact that the addendum you showed us has all our signature lines.
lines
Yeah.
on it, right. Yeah,
So that
Yeah, but
implies
the
that
attorney-
you should sign it.
It's changed, we don't need it.
yeah. And that's right, right?
On that note, I'm gonna take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
The joy.
Second, all in favor, aye, everybody have a great day, stay safe.
Eat some fruit, eat some pastries.
Sure will be in touch.
Yep.